Welcome everyone to Intergenerational Dialogue. It's wonderful to see every one of you in this monthly webinar that has started since 2019. And this was initiated by Dr. Ann Hildy and myself, Nilima Basnet, with the aim to start the intergenerational conversation between our members across the globe. As we know that the topic for today is generation equality. We all know that our organization was started in 1919, and then the UN was formed later on in 1945, whereas there has been four women international conferences that took place in the past. But the major one was in Beijing in 1995, which actually completely changed the face of the status of women around the world. And last year, we were supposed to celebrate the 25th anniversary in Mexico and Paris as a Generation Equality Forum, but due to COVID, we could not. And this year, last month, Generation Equality Forum took place in Paris, where a lot of members attended the event virtually. I guess a lot of you were there, but one of the best part is that one of our young members, she's just 18 years old from Istanbul, being the youngest, she was invited to be a speaker and attend this huge event in Paris. And before I say anything, I would like to invite Selen, who had just entered the room, to tell us what exactly happened there, because I know we all wanted to be there, but to see you virtually, it was a moment of pride because she was among the few young members, youth activists from around the world who was invited as a speaker. So Selen, could you please give us, what exactly happened there in the floor?
Hello, pleasure to be here. First of all, Nilima, thank you so much. Greetings from a very sunny and warm day from Izmir, Turkey. Hello, everyone. I'm Selin, and I'm a national gender youth activist working with young women and a member of Young BPW Maidens Tower, Turkey. On the first week of July, world leaders, philanthropists, and activists gathered at the Generation Equality Forum in Paris to discuss the future of women's rights. Convened by UN Women, the three-day conference resulted in wide-ranging pledges amounting $40 billion investments and major policy and program commitments to go towards the equality and empowerment of women all across the globe. As UN activists, we have called on heads of state, worked within our communities, and implemented strategies geared towards accelerating gender equality everywhere. By participating in the GEF, we made sure that topics ranging from female genital mutilation to disability rights were part of the conversation to make action plans intersectional and inclusive of all women. As a member of Adults and Girls Planning Group for Young Women, I had the honor of participating at the GEF Paris opening ceremony physically. Before sharing my experience regarding GEF Paris, let me give you more context about this ambitious group of young leaders. As Adults and Girls Planning Group, we started working on the establishment of an independent Adults and Girl Advisory Body directly to the action coalitions, consisting of 12 girl representatives, including myself, of Latin America, Europe and Central Asia, North America, Africa, and Arab states. We have been meeting every week for the past 9 months. Since we're adolescents, we are high school students or college students. So it was a school period, yes, but despite it was a school period, we wanted our voice, agency, and activism to be recognized. We consulted with girls from all over the world in more than 120 countries over 9 months through 8 global consultations. More than 1,000 girls in all their diversity attended the different consultations. We even met with Young Women Executive Director several times and presented our findings and demands. We advocated for actions that are targeted at girls to be included in the action coalitions and into the blueprints. Furthermore, we had the honor of hosting an official event at Generation Equality Forum Paris. I think this is an incredible way to show that when adolescents promise, adolescents really do deliver. Well, regarding my participation at the opening ceremony, it was, of course, an immense pleasure to have the opportunity to meet with such icons, such role models, from Hillary Clinton to Nadia Murad to Melinda Gates to the Secretary General of the United Nations, and directly have a conversation with them. Through the forum, the landmark efforts brought together governments, corporations, and change to define and announce ambitious investments and policies. It was also great to, again, see controversial topics being discussed on a global stage like this, from FGM to period poverty to LGBTQIA+ rights and sexual and reproductive health rights, for instance. But the most important step is the accountability or follow-up commitments. These are very good steps for anyone involved in advocacy. I am very proud that efforts are being made to include people and organizations from all their diversity to be an active change maker within the JEF. However, I also acknowledge that a lot more needs to be done in terms of advocacy so that every woman and every girl and every stakeholder gets involved meaningfully rather than just being there for the picture. We haven't seen any disabled speakers nor trans speakers, for instance, in the opening ceremony. I know this may seem like a minor detail, but I assure you it is not. We cannot keep a blind eye on these if we are talking about leaving no one behind. Now, the forum is over with ambitious commitments being made. We, as young leaders and civil society, need to show that our work is nowhere near being done. From this moment forward, it is our responsibility to make sure that the commitment makers and decision makers are implementing their commitments to their action plans, which will benefit everyone in the long run. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Selen. You know, everything you were saying, I could remember what, how I felt when the first time I went to UN in 2016, I think, for the Youth Assembly. You know, it's a lot of things that is going on around the world, a lot of conversation going on, a lot of commitment, but the only thing that is, lacking is the accountability and implementation. And I guess as an organization which has been raising voice since more than 100 years, I think we have made our, a lot of members have made a lot of things easy for us, but I don't think this world is equal for women. And we still need to, keep on fighting and to see the fire, the way you have been working and you have been advocating for women's rights. And it is, I see that we have this future where I don't know which generation, but we'll see the generation equality for sure. Though this forum said that within 5 years they have this target till 2026, and but it's I know it's 5 years is we can double the speed, but there's a long way to go. And I see you running, and advocating for it for a long time, and I congratulate you. And I think you are very lucky to be there at the event.
Thank you very much.
And with this, I know a lot of us attended virtually, but like to show a short video about generation equality so that you can understand what is it all about.
Sama, why should we act for equal?
Because boys and girls have to be equal.
Why do we need to act for equal?
Because women have the right to be part of decision making.
Because girls are just as much as boys.
To make gender equity and equal pay contagious.
Why would we choose a world where women can't thrive?
We believe in reinventing the status quo and reimagining a better future.
Porque no queremos que ninguna mujer se quede atrás y ninguna se quede fuera.
To end domestic violence against women and girls.
We need more women at the peace table.
If we truly want to empower our future generations, we must empower our women and our girls.
Girls and boys should never be not equal.
Because as humans, we deserve equal opportunities.
So that I have an equal opportunity to change the future.
Why do we need to act for equal?
So that all girls can be healthier and happier.
And to show that girls are capable of anything. para proteger los derechos de los pueblos indígenas.
Para que los gobiernos escuchen nuestras voces.
Parce que la pandémie a mis en danger les droits des femmes.
Because we shouldn't have to smash glass ceilings.
Act for equal.
Porque la igualdad es derecho humano fundamental.
So that women across the oceans can weave together our knowledge for climate justice.
Because we all deserve to be treated equally and respected for who we are.
Let's break down barriers and change perception.
Porque la igualdad de género no es solo una lucha de mujeres.
It's time for men to engage, to move, to be part of this fight.
To build a movement of young people, influencers, activists, and leaders to be a force for change.
I hope you understood what is going around the world with this video regarding Generation Equality Forum that took place last month. So with this, I know a lot of us here today want to discuss what this is all about, but the discussion will carry on later. But for now, we have a brief poll questions that I would like all of you to take your time and answer it. It's a very short one. So let's go for the poll. Okay, the first one we had was which of these Generation Equality Action Coalition is most important to you? And we all can see that gender-based violence has 50% over here. So, and the next one is which of the action agenda objective for this coalition is more important to you? And for this, we can see the highest one we have like tie. The one is transforming gender norms, including by engaging men and women. And the next one is focusing on systematic change by addressing structural inequalities, which I guess is what exactly, Selim just told us. So, and the third one is in an intergenerational approach to action for gender equality, which one is the most important to you? And for this, we have the highest one is new ideas generated by younger generations. And I guess these are some of the things that even Selin highlighted. So with this, I close the poll, and now I would like to request Dr. Ann Healthy to take over this section.
Okay, thanks, Nilima. Just one more thing before I take the poll off the screen. Actually, there were three that were equal in, two. In that third one, I'm misreading. The one that you read, and also greater inclusivity across generations, particularly marginalized, which is usually considered to be the youngest and the eldest. So we wanted to add that result in. Okay, we'll take off the poll results. Now, there are two ways that we hold these discussions if you're joining us for the first time. First, we'll set up a couple of breakout rooms. We have 12 people here, so we'll set up 3. So there should be 3 to 4 people in each room, and you'll be automatically moved into that room. If it asks for permission, just say yes. Sometimes it asks you for permission on the screen. Otherwise, it'll happen automatically. We'll have 20 minutes of discussion in the small group. And the discussion question, and I'll send that to your group as well, is what would an intergenerational approach to gender equality efforts look like? Our advocacy, activism, and so on. And then when we come back from our breakout rooms, we'll have a second 20 minutes of the group as a whole. And so we'll discuss it further all together based on your more in-depth discussion in your breakout rooms. So without saying any more, let me set up those breakout rooms. And we will open them. Okay, so let's talk. So if you have something to say based on your smaller conversation, or something you didn't get a chance to say there, or just came to you now, some stroke of brilliance, please just raise your hand or use the raise hand function, whatever works for you, and I will call on you and you can unmute. So Chantal, jump right in.
Thank you. My group nominated me to be our spokesperson.
to summarize what we just talked about. So I'm not going to take 20 minutes to do that. What we talked about is the concept that Helen introduced of holding space, of this concept of guardianship in New Zealand, of holding space for the next 30 to 50 years so that the youth of today have a space to grow into. Yasmin mentioned that there's the well-being that's at issue with the youth. About many youth are having mental health issues and feeling that a lack of aspiration, not because they lack aspiration, but because they don't see a future. And Diana brought up that, you know, our role as the mature ones in the room or in the world is to not only hold that space, but to provide that voice of wisdom to share with the youth, to listen to the youth. And we all agreed amongst ourselves that we need to listen to the youth and find out what world they want to build. And we need to help them build that world by sharing our experience and how to do advocacy and how to make changes and activism. We respect that the youth are much more informed and better informed than we were when we were their age, than we lived through a privileged time of having lots of opportunities created by our mothers and aunts and grandmothers, and that we need to help the youth have an opportunity to live in a world where they have the same sorts of opportunities. And a big part of that comes down to activism and advocacy for explaining why it's important to deal with climate disruption, and using our wisdom of the more mature people to help articulate the how and the why that we can deal with climate disruption, so that we can get rid of some of those injustices that are caused by climate disruption and the things like the pandemic. And we firmly believe that if we can react as a world to deal with something like the pandemic, then we can react as a world to deal with something like climate disruption. And that sums up our 20-minute discussion.
Okay, thanks, Chantal. And just to clarify for anyone here or looking at this video later who's not necessarily a native English speaker, the word mature can be a loaded one, by which, that's quite all right, by which we don't imply that other people are immature so much as that they're younger. It's another way, it's a more polite way of saying elder.
And my apologies to anybody I might have offended. I was trying to avoid old or elder.
Mm-hmm. Right, just to clarify. Those of us in the second half of life, let's say, myself included. Okay, who else would like to speak from one of the other two groups? We didn't really ask for a summation, so if you didn't prepare someone to summarize your group, it's quite all right. But since the first one has been, or one of the groups has been totally summarized, we'll ask for now for anybody who wants to speak from either of the other two groups. I don't see any volunteers. So Nilima, I'll volunteer you. How about your group?
Okay, we were three of us. One of, Julia could not speak because of her problem with the voice there. So, I was asking Monique, how was it like, back in her age when she was like 20, 30, how is the world compared to now? Because when I was listening to her, there was so much of things I could relate regarding the world that she was living in when she was young as me. And I could, listening to her, it was certain things that my mother used to tell me about, how tough it was for her and how lucky I am right now. But when I look at myself right now, I don't see that I'm lucky because I'm not treated equally at home or at work or anywhere, because when there is a group of men in the room, I have to, instead of trying to fit in, I have to stand out, because it's really tough for the girls of this generation, I think, because the word feminist has backfired us, in a way that, it's like, if you speak up, you are way too smart, or, you're trying to get attention when, when they say that you have such and such of equality in your country, why do you keep on screaming everywhere? So I think listening to Monique, I see that a lot of hard work has been done in this last, 100 years. things have changed, but I think we need to really speed up so that next time when we have this another intergenerational dialogue in I don't know how many years, younger like me, or a younger girl, I'm not young anymore, so another young girl will not feel confident enough in our country or society. So I think this is something that we discussed how we can do it, and it was more about, you know, having more women in politics, having more women in, you know, like you know, I was talking about the women in New Zealand and the Prime Minister of New Zealand and Finland, how they are like changing the face of women leadership. It's not that you have to be really, you know, of certain age or certain, you know, a background, because a lot of times we see that women head of states are, whether they are women of, I mean, a wife of some politicians or something like that. So now things have changed a lot, and I think this intergenerational dialogue, which can be between two, a mother and daughter, I think it has to start in BPW in every way, because we know that we have like different generation of BPW members who have actually worked really hard for our freedom right now, and I think we can also get ideas from them and, you know, continue the fire that they have started, so that the next generation can feel like, okay, somebody did something, that's why she's like, you know, I'm experiencing this freedom. I think this was something we could relate. We had like a very brief discussion about it. So that is all about us.
Okay, thanks, Nilima. And just for the record, you're not young BPW, but you're still in the first half of life. We can all agree on that. Okay, how about the other group? I don't remember exactly who was in what group, but we did have a third group. And so let's see, that would have been Ira, Rosani, Mina, and Sujata, actually. Anybody from that group willing to speak?
I would like to try the first question.
Okay.
Okay. That is, what is generation equality? Okay, the gender equality campaign demands equal pay, equal sharing of unpaid care and domestic work, an end to sexual harassment and all forms of violence against women and girls, healthcare service that respond to their needs, and their equal participation in political life and decision making in all areas of life. That is the meaning of gender equality. What is the generation equality? Is it right? Okay, so for the second question, I need Dr. Mina to help me.
You need to unmute yourself, Dr. Mina. Dr. Mina, you need to unmute yourself.
Oh, Ira.
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, we were very confused in the beginning. What is our questions? So we have asked Nilima what is our questions, but she was busy, and after that we know that this is our question. So we couldn't do a lots of discussion in the group. So I don't know what to say and how to say. But I have, in my opinion, I want to say something that the generation equality gap, how to fulfill the generation equality, how to do advocacy, then we have to make a group among the young girls and the old age or matured ladies. Between between group, we have to ask some questions regarding how to fulfill this gap, what is their problem, what is the young agers problem, and what is the old agers problem. And so we can find out the solution between these two generations. So I think this is the, and to supporting life balance and flexible work, so that we can do by interaction and by the advocacy, by the group, separating the group. And then only we can find out the solution, how to meet this generation gap, and how to advocate them to do their work perfectly. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mina. Okay, so I want to just put out the question again to everybody, and that is, I'm going to mute you now, Mina. That is that in our advocacy or activism, in BPW, we're more on the advocacy side. Many of us are in other groups, NGOs and otherwise, that are maybe more activist. But in either way, what would an intergenerational approach look like? And now, including myself, we've sort of neatly divided this into younger and elder or mature, and as if there are only two. But in reality, there are 5 generations in the workforce, 5 adult generations at the moment. So those who are working beyond usual 60 to 65 retirement would be the upper age. And then if younger people are entering the workforce earlier than one might expect, I was working by 16. So we have up to 5 generations right now in the workforce. That's never happened before in the history of humanity. So we actually have a number of different generations with different views of the world and how we go about this work that we're all here for. How would that look? I want to just throw one thing out there, and that has already been mentioned once today at least, and that's intersectional feminism. Now, not everybody's comfortable with the word feminism, doesn't matter. Change the word. Intersectional means across all different areas that might not be equal, so that we can't just in isolation consider gender, but we also have to consider people with disabilities and people of all ethnic groups or races and so on, and look at all aspects because they're not separate, they're all interrelated. So I want to throw that out there because that's something that younger generations tend to take as their view when they're doing activist or advocacy work. And those of us over a certain age haven't really had that approach in the past anyway. So anybody want to say anything about that? How can we work together on this? Helen, I'm going to call on you.
Thank you, Anne. And when I look at activism and I look at advocacy, I think our younger generation look at activism because they campaign for various issues, whether it's for women with disabilities, whether it's women having a political voice, whether it's women against violence, all of those issues. And we as the next generation or the more senior generation, we're the more advocate voice in the sense that we campaign using a more structured voice and opinion. Whereas the younger generation, I'm not saying, and please keep this in context, their passion means that they're activism and it comes from a position of passion. And what we need to do is we need to enhance that energy and give them the skills and the tools to actually show them how they use that enthusiasm in a more practical way, that it actually makes a political difference, that it makes difference when it comes to changing perceptions globally, whether it's with regard to conventions or international treaties. I think that is where the collaboration between the intergenerational conversation takes place. That I love their activism and enthusiasm, but we need to actually impart that advocacy with them. So I'm going to kind of leave it at that. And thank you.
Okay, great. Sorry, I forgot to mute myself during that time. Thanks, Helen. So certainly channeled more. Oh, my cat has just joined us. I would say both are valid, and the validity of having 1 million women march on your capital which would be out in the street activism, is very powerful. And yet advocating within the government for people like you, Helen, who are actually a politician in the government, is also very, very powerful. So to me, this is a two-pronged approach. And to be frank, when I was in my 20s and asked to join BPW, I said, that's not for me because it's boring compared to being in the streets and being an activist, which I really was. So now I've aged into it. But we have a lot of members in their 20s and 30s who are in BPW. So BPW has never really been about that kind of activism, and I'm not advocating for it. Just to say, there are many approaches to this, and maybe we need to have a very broad view of that. Okay. Anyone else want to add anything to the mix? Yasmin, how about you? I know you can't use your video, but are you still with us?
Yes. No. Well, I definitely agree with the results of this webinar. And thank you. And thanks to Nelima for organizing. And we need to work a little bit harder to make possible that the young people, men or women, can be more interested in join this kind of activism. And this is not easy, but we have to still try.
Okay, so let's also we have just a few more minutes. I'll throw out one more question. When we're thinking of different generations, someone here mentioned different needs, certainly at the ends of the spectrum, but even in the middle. And what might those, when we're talking about gender inequality, what might those differences be that maybe we're not always considering all of them? What would be the inequalities of someone in her 20s just graduated from university and starting out her career versus someone who's looking at retirement? Anybody want to pick up on that? Maybe food for thought. Okay. So
No,
someone
okay,
hey, Yasmin, jump in.
This is something that I mentioned during the breakdown. That personally, in my office as a medical doctor, what I can see in the youth is that they are worried about the day by day. So they are in some point a little bit disappointed with what is going on. They don't feel that there is a better future, so they just work and do whatever they can do to survive sometimes. So this is something that unfortunately it's what I can see in my country, Mexico.
I would agree. I've had women
like a sense of no hope.
Yeah, you mentioned that before. I've had girls as young as 12 who have said the same thing to me. Why should I bother? There will not be a future for me.
I have
Diana?
one thing. Yes, thank you, Anne. I have one thing that came to my mind when Yasmin was speaking, and combined with the fact that young people now are work in a faster world for them, because technology is very fast. You get a fast reward with technology. And I read yesterday I saw a picture that struck me, because it says we have to be like nature. We have to be patient. And we, the second half of life generation, have learned patience. And young people with us should work on patience. That's what's lacking. For me, that's one important difference. Thank you.
Thanks, Diana. Hard to be patient if you think there won't be a future world for you, though. I'll give you one example of what I see, and then I'm going to yield to you, Chantal, and then we'll wrap up after that. One example I would say is because of technology, in a country where I lived for almost 10 years, which many of you know, which is South Korea, the government a couple of years ago put in a petitioning program online whereby if they have 100,000 people sign up for any issue that anybody starts, they're obligated by law to pay attention to it and to take action and to form a committee to look into it or whatever the action might be. So because of that tool, it's now quite efficient to get out there and get you and all your friends and their friends and their friends and gather that within days because of social media and get 100,000 signatures for something that you want to force the government to take action on, to at least consider. So there are lots of platforms like this in lots of governments. So the face of advocacy may also have changed, and younger people might actually be more adept at that than the rest of us. Food for thought, as everything is here today. Chantal, I'm going to yield to you because you have asked to speak on intersectionalism, and then we will close after that. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to speak briefly about intersectionality, specifically when it comes to disabled women. During the pandemic, I learned a lot about communicating with people who have different communication styles from me, specifically people who have vision loss and hearing loss. And I learned about little things that we can do to make our communication more accessible to those people. So some of the little things are using accessible hashtags, which means capitalizing every word in the hashtag so it's easier for screen readers to read. And that one little thing can make your text more accessible, as in, for those who can't see, adding alt text, alternate text to the description of an image that you post online makes it easier for those with vision loss. So those are just a couple of little things, and I know we are running out of time, so we can act to make our content more accessible and include disabled women.
Okay, that's a good note on which to end, Chantal. Right, lots of really rich dialogue today, and I want to thank you all for coming along and participating in that and making your contributions. As you know, we're now posting these online, so about 24 hours from now, you'll be able to share it with everybody you know who wasn't able to be here today. And we hope to see you all again this time next month, the 4th Wednesday at the same time of day every month. And the topic of that one will soon be announced. So thanks once again. If you're in summer at this time, please stay cool. If you're in winter, please stay warm. And everybody, do the best you can to stay healthy and happy. Bye for now.